welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Jeff Harding. I'm sitting in for Kyle Case, who's out of town today. Joining me today is Derek Campbell, CFO of the Huntsman World Senior Games. Derek, how are you?
Doing great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Good to have you here. First time radio show. And I don't want to let out any secrets, but Derek is just a little nervous about this, aren't you, Derek?
Yeah. And I've got a lot of friends who say I have a great face for radio, so at least I'm in the right spot.
You know, that was going to be my joke, Derek. Thanks for stealing it. Anyway, well, welcome to your inaugural radio show. And, you know, on a recent visit to Zion National Park, I saw these giant tour buses going through the park, and they stopped at overlooks and stuff like that, but they never really got out and experienced the park.
That's weird.
Well, some tourists, that's what they want to do. They'll say that they've been to the park. I've seen it in Bryce. I've seen it in other national parks, but they just kind of go along and they go to the lookouts, but they really don't go out and experience the park. And but yet they say they've been there. And it kind of reminds me of that old Garth Brooks song, Standing Outside the Fire. Just, I don't know if you know it, but the chorus goes, standing outside the fire, life is not tried, it is merely survived if you're standing outside the fire.
Yeah, I used to be a Garth Brooks fan.
Used to? What happened? He retired?
I just grew up a little bit.
Oh, you no longer had friends in low places?
Right.
And to me, that reminds me of the active life. If you're sitting on the couch kind of watching the world go by, you're really standing outside the fire. That pause, just so you know, that pause is so you can make a comment.
I recently introduced my son to that song, Standing Outside the Fire, because it's not just that he's in the fire, he is the fire. He's the chaos, not the control.
Well, that's a whole different story, but thanks for sharing that. One of the purposes of this show, The Active Life, is to encourage people to figuratively, stand inside the fire, to get out there and experience life, be active, do something that's going to get your heart pumping and improve the quality of your life.
Yeah, that's an awesome point, Jeff. That's an awesome point. Keep my comments brief.
Okay. Well, on that high note, our guest today is Dr. Gary Measom. Gary, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, Gary, great to have you on our show. Gary is the co-chair of our health screenings that we provide, the free health screenings that we provide for our athletes. And Gary, let's talk a little bit about you first, where you're from, what your background is, your education, so that the folks have a chance to get to know you.
Okay. I was raised in Spanish Fork, up here a little north of you guys.
Quite a bit north, actually, but...
What?
Quite a bit north of us, actually.
Relative, Jeff. It's all relative.
Well, relative, but it's a long drive from here. It's like 3 hours.
I've been there the last 2 weekends, so not that great.
That's true. That is true.
And actually, it's been more than that, because over the winter we've gone down to do hiking down where it's a little less snow. So, you know, I get out and do that. My background is I'm a registered nurse. I have an associate, bachelor's, and master's degree in nursing, and started teaching at BYU. And my professor said, you need to get a doctorate if you're going to teach in the university. So I went back to school at the University of New Mexico and received a doctorate in exercise physiology. Wow. So that's my background.
And
what else have you got for me? What other questions?
This is going to be a great show, I can tell. It's going to be. It really is. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. So with your background, I can see where the background would help you in a lot of different ways, help prepare your students for what they're going to experience as they're out practicing or they're working in their trade of nursing. But let's relate that to the Huntsman World Senior Games and the geriatric or the 50-plus demographic.
Okay, well, let's talk about education for a minute. Nurses really are educators, and we teach patients to try and optimize their health. And when I went back to school for my doctorate, I looked and I thought, what do I want to study? And it was important to look at health promotion. And to me, that was either nutrition or exercise. So I chose exercise. And so I don't know if most people have heard stories about people going to the doctor and the doctor says you need to get on an exercise program, but they look at the doctor or other healthcare provider and they're not the optimal shape and size that they should be.
Right.
Not doing what they're telling their own patients to do. And so I think what I want to do with exercise and nursing is be an example and teach nursing students that they have to be examples to their patients. And Florence Nightingale said that back when she was alive, that nurses should be an example to their patients.
Well, I think that really all of us should be, whatever our forte is, we should be an example of that. Walk the walk and talk the talk, as it were, if we really want people to believe what we're telling them.
That's the only way people will believe you.
Well, you're right. You're right. That's very true. So, Gary, how long have you been involved with the Huntsman World Senior Games?
You know, I was just trying to calculate that, and I'm not sure exact year that I started, but it's at least 21, and it may be 24. I can't remember exactly.
You've actually been here the majority of the time that the games have been around.
Yes.
So you have quite a bit of history and background with the games. And your association has always been in the healthy lifestyles, health testing area, right?
Well, I started out with helping some of the BYU professors in a research project, and they had just, I think, 500 to 600 people that first year that I went. Not too many people.
Right.
And they started doing some health screenings, and they needed help. So I helped them, the lab techs and the people that were doing health screenings, because they needed help, and continued to help, and then brought students down from BYU and then from UVU, where I'm teaching presently. And I've been going ever since.
Now, you've been coming here for 23, 24 plus years. How long have you been a registered nurse?
Oh, that's a harder one.
We ask the tough ones here.
I graduated with my associate degree in 1976. So if you got a calculator real handy, it's probably around 38
that would be
years.
38 or 39 years, because this is 2005, so... Or 2015, excuse me. I knew it ended in a 5. 2015, so, we're just a year away from 76. That was the year I graduated from high school, 1976. So I'm impressed because Gary's a specimen of health. I mean, he's a go-getter. You're going to run the marathon down here this year, aren't you, Gary?
I ran the... Shamrock run last week to qualify, so I just have to register. I'm qualified to run. I'm not in shape now because I hurt my knee, so I'm getting that better. But I'll be running the marathon in St. George. This will be my 4th time.
Wow, that's pretty good. If you're just joining us, this is the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life on Fox News 1450. And we're glad we're talking with Dr. Gary Measom from UVU.
So, Gary, this is Derek. I have a question for you. You've been in this career, in this profession a long time. You're living the life. You're fit. What changes have you seen in health and in fitness in your career?
The biggest one is not smoking in hospitals. When I first started in nursing, it was allowed to smoke in hospitals.
Wow.
No.
I was in one hospital, I won't say where it was, went by the respiratory therapy department, and there was so much smoke in that office that you could hardly see people in there.
No, I had. Go ahead, sorry.
That's counterintuitive that you'd think respiratory therapists wouldn't be smoking.
Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't a big deal. Patients would smoke in bed, and we had always in-services on how to put out a fire on a patient bed while they were occupied. And so I think that's the biggest thing, that we've gotten rid of smoking in the hospital, but not only there, but most indoor places now, people can't smoke. And I think that's been a help for everybody's health.
I remember when Utah passed the Clean Indoor Air Act, and none were happier than I that because I worked in a place where probably half the people were smokers, and they tried to divide the work group up and put the smokers at one end of the little room and the non-smokers at the other end, but somehow the smoke found its way to both ends of the room, so it really didn't make any difference.
Well, if you are a smoker, that's or a non-smoker, it makes a difference either way. So, Gary, in the healthcare changes, you've seen the reduction of smoking in the hospitals, but what are other fitness changes that you've seen over that time as well, or changes in focus?
Well, I think more people say they're going to exercise more, and you see that with the number of fitness spas and gyms that are around, but they start and then they stop. I think we're more aware that we need to be fit. It's just very difficult to get people to continue on with a lifestyle of healthy things. Now, I'm not great because I drink too much soda. That's probably my biggest downfall. And I know that I shouldn't, but I like it, and so I continue. And that's what people say about smoking and drinking and everything. So we all need to work. We all have ways to go.
I saw a great T-shirt at a 5K. It said, "I run so I can eat." Well, maybe that's not great, but it tickled me because that's kind of how I feel about it.
Well, and that's what I think it's Bill Rogers that won the Boston Marathon a number of times. That's what he said, that he runs so he can eat donuts. And I've heard my wife say that also.
That you run so you can eat donuts, or she does?
She does.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I just eat donuts.
Man after my own heart. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the health screening. I imagine you've heard some amazing things and seen some amazing things over the years. Do you have any stories you'd like to share with us about things that were discovered or revelations that were given to individuals that made a difference in their lives?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. When we do blood pressures as a screening, which is a common screening tool for most health fairs, but
right.
We had, and I tell my students, if there's a question about the blood pressure, have them, the athlete rest and take it again in about 5 minutes. And this girl had done that for the athlete, and she took the blood pressure again, and the blood pressure was something like 210 over 120 or something like that. Wow. Way high.
Wow, yeah.
And so the student came to get me, and I checked the blood pressure, and that's what it was. I told the athlete, go ahead and sit down and rest, and I'll come back and take your blood pressure. Well, she sat down and rested, and I forgot to go back for about a half hour. So she was really well rested, went back and took her blood pressure again. It was the same thing. This lady, the athlete, was scheduled to run the triathlon the next day.
Oh, my.
And so I mean, she had been training and that for a long time for this, and so it wasn't brand new. But in a competition, your adrenaline and the heart rate and blood pressure is going to go up more than while you're training. And
right, and you push yourself a little harder during a competition.
That's why. And so I told her that she really needed to go to the doctor, not when she got home, but straight to the doctor. She went, I don't know whether to the emergency room at the hospital or an Instacare, but she did go. The year following, she came back and told us that she didn't do the triathlon. She got on medication, and she was planning to do it this year, and her blood pressure was under control. So
wow, what a good story.
That's probably one of the stories that I think is really impressive. Another one with blood pressure that, again, nurses need to teach, and one of the reasons for the screenings is to help people learn about their bodies. Had a man come that had high blood pressure, and he'd never had high blood pressure before. And he was a little worried about it, but I asked him about what he'd been doing. He says, well, because I have a little cold, so I took some cold medicine because I needed to, I think he was a softball player, play softball. And so I took some decongestant to help open up my sinuses and stuff. And then I asked him about caffeine use. He says, well, I really have had about 3 or 4 cups of coffee this morning. And wow. I said, well, look at this, what you're doing. The decongestant is a stimulant, the coffee is a stimulant, and you're a little sick. So all of that causing your blood pressure to go way up. And he didn't know that,
Yeah.
So he needed to be educated to cut down on his coffee if he's taking some decongestant, because people just don't know.
Well, no, and it's part of their daily routine. They don't even think about it. It's just something they do. They get up, they have their coffee. Oh, I have a little bit of a stuffy head. I'm going to take a pill. It's something that there's in their mind, there's no correlation one to the other. So it's great that you're helping to educate these folks.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's also exciting when the people are able to report back the next year and they're still around probably because of what you said or helped them learn about their bodies and how to take care of it.
And one last example is that we do the prostate serum antigens for the men.
Right.
And that's a screen for prostate cancer.
Commonly known as PSA testing.
Yeah, PSA. And we had, a neighbor of mine actually was down at the games, had his PSA taken. It was high, and he ended up seeing his physician and then going to a urologist, and they ended up doing surgery because he had prostate cancer. And
wow.
That's been 10 years ago, and he's doing fine now still. So, those screenings have helped a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
They really have. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life on AM 1450 Fox News. We're talking with Dr. Gary Measom, who is the co-chair of our Healthy Lifestyles health tests that we do during the games that are free for the athletes.
So, Gary, recently, all doctors get this question, right? I've got this spot I need you to look at. Recently, I started exercising, working out a little bit, and I used to feel a lot more sedentary pain, and now I'm feeling more active pains. What advice do you have for people who are just dealing with pain overall?
That's a hard question, Derek.
I know.
But you're smart.
Well,
you are a doctor.
Well,
my answer to everything is exercise, just because I'm an exercise physiologist. But truthfully, the more people move, with regard to, I mean, there are some disease states that it probably isn't really helpful. But most people, if they get moving, will get used to that movement, and I think the pain will go down. And you don't have to be a marathon runner. You know, in Scandinavia and Europe, they have a tradition of going for a walk after meals in the evening. I think that would be a great idea if everybody did that.
That sounds great.
My wife and I started that once, and then we got busy doing other things and didn't continue it. But just getting out and walking and moving is probably the best thing.
I think that's sound advice. My grandma and grandpa, way back in the day, I have vivid memories of, if we happened to be over at their house in the evening, they would go for an evening stroll together, hand in hand. So these, 75, my parents are older than my grandparents were at that time. Now that seems pretty strange, but just seeing them holding each other's hand and walking down the street, grandpa in his top coat and hat, grandma with her scarf on, and it was just, a great memory. But what a wonderful thing to do in the evenings, to just go for a stroll together and have time to talk and share.
It is. You can't beat that time either.
No, you really can't.
Gary and Jeff, I have another question that you two probably know the answer to more directly than anyone else. I know we have thousands of volunteers that help at the games, but how many do we have in the health screenings section alone that actually get to help give this advice and do these health screenings with us?
That's a hard question too, because we have volunteers that come from BYU, from UVU, from SUU, and DSU, Dixie State, Southern Utah University, Utah Valley University, and Brigham Young University. But on any given day, we probably have, what would you say, Gary, 60 to 70 student volunteers, and then a few supervisory volunteers?
Yeah, probably that much.
That's awesome.
So there is quite a few.
40 to 60, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, on any given day. So there are a lot of people that are involved in the testing and helping make it happen.
That's great. A lot of students, it sounds like, as well as real life experiences for them, as well as good solid health screenings for our athletes.
Yeah, and let me say one thing about the students too, especially the nursing students. When they think of seniors and older people, they have in their mind, when they've been taking care of patients in the hospital or even more in the nursing home that have not been in good health, and they see the downside of aging, but they come down to the senior games and their views change 180 degrees, because they can see people that are healthy, that are having fun at age 80, 90 even, and right. Their views change dramatically. It's really fun to see those views change.
So really their education takes two courses. One is honing their skills for nursing, and the other is honing their life skills. Hey, I want to be like these people when I'm that age, so I need to follow the same recipe they're following to get there.
I've heard that lots of times in their journals.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Gary, we're running out of time. It's amazing how fast this half hour passes. It's been great talking to you. Do you have any last parting words of advice for the folks listening out there?
Just get out and move. I think especially in St. George, in fact, my wife and I went for a walk last week after we did a run. We went out and walked in around the Red Rock down there. It's just beautiful. Don't stay inside. There's no reason to.
Right, and the urban trails and everything that's out here for us. That's great. Well, again, thanks for being with us, Gary. You were a great guest. Would like to invite everybody to come to the Huntsman World Senior Games, be a participant, and go in and meet Gary in the health testing. He'll be the one in the Hawaiian shirt, in the Aloha shirt. It's very easy to pick him out. Registration is open, as you know, Derek, and in fact, it's open and it's closed for at least one sport. Pickleball is closed.
Yes.
Very quickly in
Very
3 days it closed, but everything else is still open. Although bowling is getting close to closing again.
Yeah, I suspect in the next couple days bowling will be at its maximum. So
if you're interested, go to www.seniorgames.net and you can register. You can also hear this show or any other show that we've done at the same location. They're all there. It might take a few days for us to get them on, but every show that we've done is available through the game's website. We just want to remind everybody that aging seems to be the only available way to live a long life, and that's from Daniel Francois Esprit Auber. Until next time, stay active.